Hello there, and welcome back to Nuparo's workshop for episode 3 of the Toa Factory. We're not going to waste any time here. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our wheel of elemental power. So today we're gonna get real with things with our let's see, Toa of Fire. All right, we've been playing it kind of safe so far, going with very standard builds. But this time around, I want to shake things up, pick some different colors. As you can see with the limbs here, I'm putting out some different options that we can try and choose from. But we're going to try and be a little bit more creative than we have been so far, and do something a little more interesting. We've got some limbs I want to test out here. We got the lime green, which I think might be a little bit too bold, maybe. Green and red in the Bionicle universe don't necessarily go very well together. So I think I'm going to dump that one. We've got the black, which I love the way it looks, very striking, very fire. But it's we've already used it, so I'm going to move on to the dark gray here. Again, has that kind of charcoal, sort of dark burn feel, which I think is great for a Toa of Fire. But in this case, I'd like to go with something more bold. The light blue, I like the way it looks. I like the contrast, blue and red, classic combo. You know, Superman, Spider-Man, that sort of thing. And there is precedent of a Toa of Fire, or a fire character, having that light blue as Takua. That was his secondary color. So this is the one we're going to go with. I'll put some other limbs out here. Unfortunately, I don't have any of the perpendicular limbs. I think that would be nice to use some more of those. I'm not even sure if they exist in this color. I'll actually have to look that up later. But yeah, we're going to go with the light blue. I could make it asymmetrical, but I think I'm going to stick with having 2 of the axle hole arms and then the 2 classic Mata legs. Got our feet. And then going for the head, for the eye color. The 2 options I'm really considering are the light blue because it matches with the limbs, and then also looking at the yellow because I think that would be a nice point of contrast. I think it would go well with the limbs and the body color. But ultimately, I'm feeling the light blue. I think that would be the better option for this Toa. So, like I was saying, I want to do things a little bit different. So we're going to invert the torso today. Usually I don't like how long and spindly that makes the legs. So I'm going to go ahead and raise that up. Use that axle hole, which is hardly ever used. And we'll insert the legs in there, the hips in there. It won't have any kind of gear function, so we'll have to come up with a way to fill that in. But I think this looks better now. Pohatu was able to rock that look because he had the steel tip boots to add some weight to his leg design. But with just the standard Mata leg, it still feels a bit empty and almost a bit cartoonish with the way it looks. So we're just going to raise the hip up, and I think that helps a lot. Then, of course, you have the problem with these limbs, without the perpendicular limbs. When I put the shoulders on, either forward or facing backward like Pohatu had them, then the arm will hit the hip whenever you try and move it, and it'll be very not posable. So we got to find a way to angle the shoulder, kind of like this, so that you can still have a bit of movement with the arm socket, but have it not hit that hip joint. So one solution I thought might work would be to add this tri-connector here, this triaxle, put the shoulder on here, which does provide a really nice angle. It works. That's like exactly where I want the shoulder. But then you have the big downside of having that extra axle hanging out in the armpit. It's a bit like armpit hair. I tried adding this cone to give it a sort of energy kind of feel, but now it just feels like electric armpit hair, which is not necessarily an improvement. So the other idea I had was to use these hot dog pieces. I've never really used them before, but they're kind of nice pieces. They allow you to connect things at different sort of angles. So we're going to try that out here and see if it works. You know, it's a bit thin, but I do like the angle that it gets. And these hot dog pieces with the curve, they actually add a little bit extra friction to the connections. So it makes it a little bit more steady than you would actually think it might be. I'll go ahead and add a bush piece to kind of fill that shoulder out. And I'm actually quite liking the look of that. I think there's potential here. It does remind me of the Toa Metru promotional art, because those shoulders always had kind of an extra piece that was artificially added in to give them more shoulder mobility. And I feel like that is very similar to the vibe we have going with this Toa here. Put the other arm in, add the bush, and add the arm. And once we add weapons, we'll see if it's really stable enough to hold it up. I'd say it's both surprisingly stable, but also not as stable as I'd like it to be. But here's the look, the basic outline of this Toa. And then here's this is going to be the neck. Slide that in here. And that is a bit too tight. That's not supposed to go in there. Let's try the other way. There we go. Just get that hooked in. And then having a pinhole for the neck connection will allow us to have a little bit more mobility as well. Have some neck swivel action. We're going to try 2 different lengths of head and see which one looks better. One a little bit shorter, one a little bit longer. We'll try the longer one first. It doesn't look terrible on camera, but in person, it's quite awkward and has a definite giraffe feel to it. It's a bit too long. So we're going to go ahead and go with the shorter neck. And it's a little bit more hunched, but I do overall like it quite a bit more. So one thing I do want to do with this series, I kind of want to break away from Bionicle lore, and I do want to make it so that any Toa of any element can be any gender. I think that was mainly just a function of marketing for the original Toa. It was mainly meant for boys, so they made most of the Toa male. But I think it's time to kind of break away from that. So we're going to have this be a female Toa of Fire. Indicated obviously by the hand piece, which at least for Gali indicated female. But for the weapons, I've got this other Toa here. I'm just going to cannibalize these weapons. Sort of a fire javelin sort of thing. I think it works well. And the blue tips, the cones I have on the end there, do sort of match the eye color. So I like that. So this Toa with these javelins, I think is going to have a sort of sporting element to them. She likes challenges. She likes proving herself and testing herself against others. So the shoulders, they are holding up, I would say. That extra friction makes them sturdy enough to hold these arms with the weapons in them. And you do have to press them back down every once in a while. They kind of want to come loose. So not the most playable, but they are quite posable. Now I'm going to try and figure out what to do with this gap in the base. I'd like to put in some sort of gear, even if it is vestigial, if it doesn't do anything, but still just completes the Bionicle look. So I'll grab a light gray or light bluish gray connector from in here. If I can find one of those, then we'll attach the gear to it. Too long. Got a bunch of long ones. Let's see if I can find a short one. There we go. Okay, we'll take that hip joint, that hip bone out, and then we'll slide the connector on in the middle. Slide it back in. There we go. Then we'll add a pin and axle connector. To start, we'll try one of the small gears. I think I'll probably end up going with a big one, but I just want to see what the small one looks like. Yeah, it's giving me the right vibe, but I do want it bigger to fill up that whole space. Okay, and that does fill up the space. Definitely has the bionicle look. Let's put one of the legs on here to get a better sense of how it looks. Interesting. I do like it, but at the same time, it evokes a feeling of like pubic hair, which is definitely not the vibe I wanted to go with. And now that I saw it, I can't unsee it. So, between the armpit hair and this, there's a lot more body hair going on in this episode than you would usually expect. So instead of the gear, I'm just going to go ahead and put in a red Technic connector, which isn't as interesting, but it does fill out the shape. It completes the body, makes it feel more solid. I could also put a two-length axle in there to hold the pin in, or to hold the connector in, but then I would never get it out. And I've made that mistake before, and it was definitely one of the darker chapters of my life. Not a mistake I ever hope to repeat. And on to our masks. I'm going to go with the light blue. I think that would look best for this character. The red would be too much in one spot. We've got the Rao. We've got the Matatu, one of my favorite masks. It's actually the mask I use for my self-mock. Then we've got the Ruru. I think I've got a couple of those. We've got the Huna. I've already used that for one Toa here, so we won't use it again. But I always like that mask. We'll see how it looks. That might be it. There's another Ruru. And Takua's Pakari. We'll add that to the list as well. Now once we've got them all here, we'll go ahead and go to our fashion show. Starting with the Pakari. The bad thing is that it does feel like this is just a Toa Takua sort of mock, which it isn't. It's a new character. But I do really like the way the textures of this mask sort of mirror the textures like in the arm, for example. The texture in the cheeks matches the texture of the forearms in a way that I do find appealing. And I think strength would be a good power for this Toa. She's competitive and she likes to do challenges, so strength would be good. The Matatu, of course, one of my favorite masks, so I always like the way it looks. I think in this case, the X shape on the mask actually sort of mirrors the shape of the body in a way that I find appealing. It does feel a bit blocky, maybe, since it's such a square mask compared to others. But the mask power, I think, would also be good. I can really see her sort of waving those javelins around and using the mask to make different rocks and things fly around. And then the Huna. I love this mask. It's got such a unique silhouette compared to a lot of the masks from the first years of Bionicle with that elongated chin section, the high cheeks. It's very unique. I have used it before on this series, so I'm not going to use it again, but just wanted to see what it looks like here. And the Ruru. This mask is also quite different since it's so much smaller than the other masks. So it feels kind of, I don't know, different. Whatever you associate something being smaller with. It also has those kind of angry eyes, so I think maybe it's sort of sassy. And night vision, not necessarily the best power. I don't think it would be the most useful. Definitely wouldn't be one that I would choose if I were a Toa. But the size of it always, I think it makes it very easy to use. A small mask like this can look a little bit more realistic on certain builds, and so I do appreciate that. That's always been one of my favorite features of this mask, especially compared to this next one, the Rao, which has been, for me, a bit harder to use because it is a fairly large mask comparatively, and the textures on it are also quite different from other Bionicle pieces. They're very smooth and have kind of a layered quality, which you don't necessarily see. And mine actually, this might be a nice mask to try with some CCBS shells. some Hero Factory shells because they have more of that smooth kind of texture. So maybe something for the future. Mask power wise, I could see this working for this character. I want her to be a bit of a contradiction from the usual Toa of Fire. So less warlike in a sense and more into learning and communicating with people. So the Mask of Languages would be, I think, a good fit for her. But our winner today is the Bakari. Yes, it feels like a Tikuamak, but I just love the way the textures to me feel like they're being mirrored, spread throughout the body. So we have a Toa of Fire, a female Toa of Fire who we are calling Ratau. Ro coming from Matoro, Tau coming from Matau. And Ratau is not your typical Toa of Fire. She's a bit different. She's less combative. She's less warlike. But she does definitely have an inherent warmth to her, which I'm going to say is kind of her theme, where we had Perkan was the defender, but Ratau, she is warm. She's very friendly. Of all the Toa, I think she is the one who is universally liked. Even Arkua, who hates people, he finds that she can even break through his icy walls because she just has that kind of bubbliness and friendliness. She's willing to do anything for her team, anything for the Matoran. She's not going to be the leader because she doesn't have what it takes to make some of the more difficult decisions. She doesn't want to sacrifice anything. She wants to make everyone happy without losing anything. And so that would prevent her from making some of the more difficult decisions. But generally very warm. She loves games. She loves competition. She loves being part of a team and being part of a community. So in many ways, she's quite the opposite of Arkua. She has a lot of similarities to Perkan. And that is it for Toa Factory episode number 3. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for sticking around, and we will see you next time.